The Zones tab is where we assign points to software zones and define software zone characteristics. The PFC-6030, the PFC-6075, and the PFC-6200 have 99 software zones available, while the PFC-6800 has 1,500 software zones. Each point on your system, smoke detectors, heat detectors, monitor modules, relays, NAC circuits, and I/O circuits, need to be assigned to a software zone. These software zones can represent a group of devices located in a specific physical area, or they may represent a set of devices that are configured for a specific function. When you run the Learn function via the Fire Alarm Control Panel keypad, all of the points found during the Learn are assigned to Zone 1. When points are assigned to a zone, they work together, which means that any inputs assigned to a zone, when active, will turn on the outputs in that same zone. For example, if you want a smoke detector to trigger a relay, the smoke detector and the relay need to be in the same software zone. Each point on the system can be assigned to all of the software zones. This provides a ton of programming flexibility. Looking at the Zone tab, there are 4 windows. I've hidden the Programming menu bar, and I've also hidden the Transfers window to make more room. The window on the far left is where we can add zones and select the zones to be configured. Currently there is only Zone 1 there. The window in the upper middle of the screen allows us to configure zone characteristics. The window just beneath that shows the points assigned to the selected zone. So for example, I have Zone 1 selected. Currently these are the points assigned to Zone 1. It is also where we are going to drop points from the points list that is here on the right to assign them to whichever zone is selected in the zones list on the left. The window on the far right is the points list. This will show all used and unused points currently on the system. If you uploaded the program from the panel after running the Learn, there will be points with functions associated with them. You can edit points in this window. It is easier to edit the points in the Points tab of the programming software. For example purposes, I have already programmed the functions of my devices and created custom messages for all my points, which you can see here. When I ran the Learn from the Fire Alarm Control Panel keypad, all of the points that were connected to the panel were assigned to Zone 1. So with Zone 1 highlighted, all of the points on the system can now be also found in this lower middle window because they are assigned to Zone 1. If starting a program from scratch, the only points assigned to Zone 1 will be the NAC circuits and the I/O circuits on the panel. So looking at this 6800 program that was not uploaded from a panel, you can see that the NACs and I/Os are there and their default function is NAC general purpose. When there is a plus sign next to anything, you can click on that to expand it for more information. So for example, here next to Zone 1, if I click on this plus sign, it's going to list all of the points currently assigned to Zone 1. And then click on that again to collapse it. Same in my points list. When I see a plus sign, I can click on that to expand it, and this is now going to tell me which zone these points are assigned to. So I can see that this particular point, built-in power supply number 1, is assigned to zone number 1. Taking a look at the zone characteristics, each zone can have its own distinct settings. The first option is name. You have 16 characters to name each zone. For example, I'm going to change Zone 1 to General Alarm. The next option is style. The default is alarm. In most cases, you'll leave the style as alarm. The other options are supervisory, positive alarm sequence, aux, fire drill, system alarm, system supervisory, and system trouble. When style alarm is selected, when an input assigned to this zone is active, it generates an alarm condition at the fire alarm control panel. If you have a supervisory point, a contact input tamper, contact input supervisory, or any detector programmed to generate a supervisory, it needs to be assigned to a zone with style supervisory. If style positive alarm sequence is selected, then that zone will operate under the positive alarm sequence guidelines and times as defined in NFPA 72. Any contact input aux point must be assigned to a zone with style aux. An aux style zone will generate an alarm condition at the fire alarm control panel. In order for the drill button on the front of the fire alarm control panel to activate any notification circuits, a zone with style fire drill must be created. You do not need to assign any inputs to this zone. The input is the drill button on the front of the fire alarm control panel. You will assign all of the notification circuits that you wish to activate during a fire drill. Again, in order for your notification circuits to activate during a fire drill, a zone with style fire drill must be created. And all notification circuits you wish to activate during a drill must be assigned to that fire drill zone. A zone with style system alarm will activate all outputs assigned to it when any alarm on the system occurs. No inputs are needed in this zone to make that happen. A zone with style system supervisory will activate all outputs assigned to it when any supervisory on the system occurs. Again, no supervisory inputs are needed to make this happen. And finally, system trouble. A zone with style system trouble will activate all outputs assigned to it when any trouble on the system occurs. As with the previous two, no inputs are needed to make this happen. Next, we have the alarm count. This number indicates the number of inputs in the zone that need to be active before the outputs are activated. The default is 1, and you can put any number between 1 and 10 in this field. So for example, if I set this to 3, this particular zone will need to have 3, and that's any 3 inputs active before the outputs will activate. Again, the default here is 1. Next we have silenceable. The default is checked. This means that the outputs in this zone are silenceable, and they will silence when the silence button on the fire alarm control panel is pressed. Usually you will want zones with notification circuits to be silenceable, which means the box is checked. Please note that relay outputs should be assigned to a zone that is non-silenceable, box unchecked, so that they don't reset when the panel is silenced, but reset when the panel is reset, which means that relays and notification circuits will tend to be in different zones. This characteristic, silenceable, does allow you to select which notification circuits are silenceable, and have a system with notification that is silenceable and some that is non-silenceable. This is great when you have that water flow connection outside of the building that is non-silenceable, as well as the notification in the building that you want to be silenceable. 2 separate zones can be created, one that is silenceable and one that is non-silenceable. Next we have latching. When latching is selected or box checked, any inputs in this zone will remain active until the panel is reset, even if the condition clears. When the box is unchecked or non-latching, when the condition of the active input clears, the event at the panel will automatically clear and any outputs associated with that input will turn off. The default for this is latching or box checked. Now looking at local, if you want the events of the zone to not be sent to central station, you can check the box under local. The signals will now not report to central station. For this to work, because this is a zone characteristic, report by zone must be selected in the dialer and IP reporting sections. Output pattern refers to the pattern that will be transmitted to a circuit with the function NAC general purpose. If you click on the down arrow, you'll see your options. The default is constant. Your other options are ANSI, March code, double time, and ANSI temp 4. Again, this is for output circuits with the function NAC general purpose that are assigned to this zone. Day-night sensitivity refers to the smoke sensitivity of the smoke detectors. To enable day-night sensitivity, go to the Sensitivity tab of the software. If day-night sensitivity is not enabled, the day sensitivity setting is followed. The default is 3.5%. This is the percent of obscuration per foot for all smoke detectors in this zone. The higher the percentage, the more smoke required to activate the detector. The sensitivity can be set between 1.1% and 3.5% for either day or night. Usually, if the day-night sensitivity is enabled, the day sensitivity is a higher percentage than the night sensitivity. Refer to your job specifications to determine whether day-night sensitivity should be enabled. Heat sensitivity refers to the fixed heat detector, or the FHA. This is where you set the alarm threshold for the fixed heat detectors assigned to this zone. The default is 135 degrees. Any temperature between 135 and 185 degrees Fahrenheit can be selected. Fixed ROR heat sensitivity refers to the rate of rise heat detector. This is where you set the alarm threshold for the rate of rise heat detector, or the RHA, assigned to this zone. The default is 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Any temperature between 135 degrees and 174 degrees Fahrenheit can be selected. Double-click in the cell to adjust the temperature setting. The auto silence timer defines the amount of time before silenceable NACs in this zone are automatically shut down. So for example, if you'd like the silenceable outputs in this zone to automatically shut off after a certain period of time, you double click in the cell to set the time. Any time between 0 and 360 minutes can be selected. Auto unsilence timer defines the amount of time before any silenced notification appliance circuits are reactivated. Outputs only reactivate if the panel is still in alarm. Double-click in the cell to set the time, and any time between 0 and 60 minutes can be selected. The silence inhibit timer defines the amount of time you will not allow the zone to be silenced when the output is in alarm or active. You can double-click in this field and set the time between 0 and 60 minutes. So for example, if you don't want the zone to be silenced for a period of time, you would set some time in this zone. When they hit the silence button, the things in this zone won't silence until that particular timer is met. Restore delay defines the amount of time before deactivating an output when the panel is reset. This is great for resetting of relays. You can set some time in here. Your range is 0 to 300 seconds. When the panel is reset, the outputs, all outputs in this zone would reset once this timer was met. So for example, if you have several air handlers on the job and you'd like to stagger the reset of those air handlers so they don't all reset at the same time, you would create a zone for each relay that is resetting the air handler. In each zone with its relay, you would set some time, 5, 10, 15 seconds, such that when you hit reset on the panel, those zones will stagger their restart of the air handlers, which can help when restoring several air handlers at one time. So each zone has these characteristics that you can adjust. So the sensitivity and the alarm thresholds for your heat detectors can be different by zone, same with latching or non-latching, your output patterns, your alarm counts, and your styles for each zone. For information on the releasing characteristics in regards to programming, please refer to the recorded module on releasing in the programming section. Now you can see when I changed the name in the zone characteristics to general alarm, it did change it also in the zones list. If I would like to add more zones, because I have in this case 1500 zones I can work with, software zones, because this is a PFC-6000, I get my mouse over where it says general alarm and I'm going to right click general alarm or zone 1, and I'm going to right click, and it's going to allow me to select add zones or delete zones. I'm going to select add zones, and at this point I can decide how many zones I'd like to add, and I can select which number I'd like to start with. I'm going to add 10 zones for right now, and I'll start with zone number 2, and when I select OK, it will add those zones. Now you'll notice that there's no plus sign next to zone 2 through 11 because there are no points currently assigned to those zones. So for example, right now general alarm is highlighted. So the points down in this middle window are currently assigned to general alarm. If I go and click on zone 2 in the zones list, this window will now be blank because there's currently no points assigned to zone 2. So I'm going to go back to general alarm and I'm going to look at my points list. Now again, I ran a learn, so as I scroll down here, these are all the points that were on my system when I ran a learn. I went to my points list in the programming software and I adjusted the name and adjusted the function of these. I don't necessarily want all of these in general alarm. I want to be able to separate them out. So I'm going to go through this list and decide what's going to stay here and what's not going to stay here. This concludes Zone Programming Part 1. Please refer to Zones Programming Part 2 for the continuation of this recorded module.